What's up, everybody, man? I just wanted to jump on real quick, give you guys a little bit of my time and talk to you guys. I'm going to wait for this thing to build up a little bit, but we'll just kind of run through it. Obviously, we had a little bit of controversy between Jon Jones and Dana White on the White House talk, on Jon, whether he was going to be on the White House card, Dana saying that he was never going to be on the White House card, Jon saying we were actually in open negotiations. We were talking, trying to get it done. Dana just basically said, like, look, I told you guys from the game, from the jump that Jon Jones wasn't going to be on the White House card. Well, I mean, Jon's manager said that they were negotiating. They were talking about Jon potentially being on the card. Jon comes out and basically says, yeah, like, what were we doing then? Were we not talking about me fighting on the White House card? So ultimately, like, this show for me doing this right now, I have another show that I did with Angelo this morning talking about the same topic. That show will probably release later today on Bad Takes, as well as on here on the Wayne In Podcast YouTube channel. But ultimately, I just want to come on here. This was something I wanted to give. I wanted to give you guys, give the people that listen to me, I want to give you guys an opportunity, a chance. You know, if you guys want to super chat me, great. I'd appreciate it. But ultimately, I want to give you guys a chance to ask questions. Like, coming from a fighter's perspective, this goes a lot deeper than just Jon being upset with Dana White. This goes more into, it seems like more of a fighter pay situation. I think a lot of people, and I use some of Ariel's comments today, which Ariel and I, we don't normally agree on some things. We don't normally agree. I don't really agree on his approach. He obviously doesn't, I don't think, agree on my approach on things. But I think Ariel hit the nail on the head in this time around. You know, because my take on Ariel is, it's always been like a reason for him to kind of take a jab at Dana or the UFC, you know, and I look, and he looks at it from a different perspective than I do. So that's why I kind of always let him like kind of slide a little bit. I like to poke fun at him a little bit, but in this situation, he hit the nail on the head, man. There's a lot of things that need to be talked about, but I wanted to give our subscribers and and our followers here on the YouTube channel like an opportunity for you guys to ask me questions. Jump in, let's go ahead and ask some questions. Let's talk about where we're headed with this Jon Jones controversy and with the Dana White controversy. Was it just about the money? Was it that he was never going to be able to fight on that card? Dana was like, I don't trust him, after the negotiations with Tom Aspinall. But let's just talk. Let's talk. First, I'm going to start off with the Jon Jones. After hearing what Dana had to say about he was never going to be on that card, we weren't going to have him on there. And Jon comes out and says, hey, everyone, I wanted to address Dana's comments from this past weekend because the truth matters to me and the fans. Dana, you were heated about why I'm not on the you were heated about why I'm not on the White House card, but let's clear something up. My team and I were actually negotiating with the UFC for that fight. Real negotiations. I even came down from my original number, and what was I offered in return? I was lowballed. Yes, I have arthritis in my hip, and it's painful, but that doesn't mean I can't fight. So let me get this straight. If I had accepted the lowball offer, suddenly my hip would be fine and I'd be on the White House card. That doesn't make sense. He goes on to say more. He goes on to say, I even received stem cell treatments last week to get ready for the White House card. Now, I just got done with my stem cell treatments. I've had stem cell treatments multiple times. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so I understand where he's saying he's making this plea like, look, I just got stem cell treatment. Like, I'm working towards getting on the White House card. After you get stem cells, you need a 90-day recovery period of doing rehab, of letting your body rest, and taking care of yourself during that time. So the stem cells actually have time to regenerate the tissue that needs to be formed. Also, too, to help get rid of the inflammation. There's a lot that goes into it. I'm not a doctor, but since I've been to CPI stem cells in Mexico several times, I've had plenty of these conversations with Scotty, one of the owners, and stem cells don't work within like a week or two. It takes months, sometimes even up to a year. So, and it has to do with how you take care of your body. You can't be drinking. You can't be training hard. You can't be lifting weight. You can't be pounding the pavement. You can't be doing those things during that 90 to 6 month period, the 90-day to 6 month period. You can't be doing those things because the stem cells needs time to stay attached to the tissue to help generate new tissue growth. That being said, I understand the business dealings fall through sometimes. I'm going out publicly and saying things that aren't true isn't right. After everything I've given to the UFC, the years, which Jon is 100% given inside the cage. We're not talking about anything outside the cage. Let's keep it real. Inside the cage, Jon has been spectacular. You cannot deny it. Inside the cage, Jon has been spectacular. So I'm hearing, and it says, after everything I've given the UFC, the years, the title defenses, the fights, hearing that I'm done is disappointing, especially when, as recently as Friday, UFC was calling me, trying to get me on the White House card for a much lower number. If the UFC truly feels I'm done, then I respectfully ask to be released from my contract today. No more spins, no more games. Thank you to the real fans, and you know what's up. Bones out. He's got it. He's got an argument. If you're saying that I'm done, well, then let me go fight somewhere else, which the UFC will not do. And I never thought, and I said this when Angelo and I filmed, I never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but I believe Jon Jones. I believe that he is in this position right now where, when he was scheduled to fight Tom Aspinall for the titles, to unify the titles, the interim title, and then his undisputed title in heavyweight, I believe he led them on to, hey, I'm going to fight him. But Tom just didn't do it for him. And look, coming from a fighter, and this is, I think a lot of you guys probably watch this show based on because of my experience from working in promotions, from being a long time fighter. I was in the top organizations all around the world for 20 to 22 years. Been fighting for a very long time. And being part of the promotion side, being part of the contract side, being a fighter inside the cage. Jon has done a lot of those things. In this situation, though, like I have to agree with Jon. Jon is one of those guys that inside the cage, he delivers. You can't take that away from him. And so when Jon's telling the UFC, like, hey, if you think that I'm done, you're saying that I'm retired, then you should let me go. This is where I've always had a hard time with the UFC, is that I get it if you want to keep me because you think I have something left in the tank and you don't want me to go elsewhere, like the Nate Diaz or the Francis Ngannou situation. Like, I get you want to keep me because I'm your champ, or because I'm one of those guys that sells. You don't want to build up another organization, but I still have some fights left in me. But if Dana White just came out publicly and just said, Jon Jones is he's done. He's retired. He's not fighting the UFC. Well, if that's the case, if you're saying that publicly, you should be willing to let Jon Jones go. If Jon doesn't have enough in the tank to provide for the UFC, which I think is bullshit, I think he still has some left, then I think the UFC should let him go. Will they do that? Absolutely not. They will not do that. They couldn't come up with a number. I think that Dana is still bitter about the fact that Dana did Jon a favor by giving him the Stipe fight. Stipe was 42 years old, hadn't fought in a couple of years. That fight had been talked about. That's, I think, where it laid down. He said, man, you did me dirty. And if you think about it right now, if you think about it, Jon would have gotten everything that he was asking for back then had they given him this fight against Alex Pereira. He would have gotten it. And I think that's why the UFC came in with a lot lower number. They said, nah, we're going to pay you this much to fight Alex. This is the fight that you've always wanted, was Alex. Alex motivated you. Why did Alex motivate him? Argument can be made that because Alex can't wrestle. Jon wants the easier fights towards the end of his legacy. Took the 42-year-old Stipe. He took the Cyril Gane fight, who can't wrestle. Like, Jon knows that in the heavyweight division, wrestling is key. If you have a smidgen of wrestling, odds are you could be a really damn good heavyweight, or you could be champ. So I think Dana was holding that over his head, like, you burned me on the last negotiations. You didn't fight Tom Aspinall. And here we are. This is where we're at right now. You either take it or leave it. Do you want to be in the UFC? Do you want to fight? Do you want to fight on the White House card? The UFC is leveraging the White House card, like dangling it as like a carrot in front of people's faces. They're saying, hey, if you want to be on the White House card, you'll take what I give you. Angelo was telling me earlier, like, no, it's not I'll take what you give you. You guys negotiated your contracts. These fights are in your contracts. I'm going to pay you what's negotiated into your contract, which is fair as well. I understand that. And Connor brought up a point yesterday too. Like, it doesn't make any sense to have Conor McGregor on the White House card. Sure, it sounds great, but the White House card is going to sell no matter what. It doesn't make sense to have Conor McGregor on the White House card knowing that there's no tickets being sold inside the venue. So that's why. So Jon Jones, it doesn't really do the UFC any good either to pay Jon and Conor all this money, knowing that people are going to watch the White House card because it's the White House card. That is that's a pretty good take. I know I have a lot of bad takes. I like it. Have fun with it. But ultimately, that to me is one of those takes that you realize no matter what, no matter who's on that card, millions of people are going to watch the White House card. Now, for us as fans, obviously you guys are hardcore. You guys are here with me right now at 10:50 in the morning. And I'm talking about Jon Jones and Dana White breaking up. But it's a big deal. It's a big deal that card will sell no matter what. The UFC knows it, and they're dangling that in front of their fighters that want to be on. Think about this. Fighters were talking about coming out of retirement to fight on the White House card. Fighters have been talking about like, hey, like let's, like I would love to fight on that. They'll go out of their way to be on that card. So I got a couple super chats here. I'm going to hit those real quick, and then we're going to go into, and then I'll take a couple other questions as well. It says, hey, Josh says, let me go ahead and post this here for you guys. Londo's 1995. Hey, Josh, hope you're well. What confuses me about this is that Jon said his dream is the White House card and legacy fight. 30 million versus 10 million or legacy. Yeah, you're right. He's got to make a choice. You can't have both things. I mean, like you can, but the UFC is not in the business of granting both your wishes. Let's just be honest. The UFC is like, look, you want to be on the White House card. That proves my point. The UFC is saying you either want to be on the White House card and you'll take less money, so you can say you fought at the White House, or you'll take the money and not fight on the White House. And so Jon had to make a decision. I think the money ultimately won out. I kind of went through a somewhat similar situation. You know how many fighters? I fought at the Playboy Mansion twice in Strikeforce. You know how many fighters were willing to, they had talked about, I'll fight for free. I remember that happening. I'll fight for free to be on that card. And obviously, the promotion's like, no, we can't not have you make money. But we have a contract. I'm not going to pay you what your contract says to fight on that card. Because they knew they could dangle it. Like now they have the right to pick and choose who they want. And the UFC is doing that. I think it was very similar to probably the Sphere. A lot of people want to fight on the Sphere card. Were you willing to take less money? No. Well then, if your contract says this, I'm not going to pay you your contract money because it's too much. Because the Sphere is already costing us this much money to put a show on there. Same thing for the White House card. And there was a lot of talk in the beginning because I recall all of this going on with Bellator as well as the UFC. It costs $500,000 just to turn the lights on in Madison Square Garden. $500,000 before a fighter steps inside that arena. Just to turn the lights on, it costs $500,000. I'm sure it's gone up since they originally started going there. 10 years ago or something like that? But it's not cheap. Certain venues cost more, and they know that. In this situation, the UFC is paying for the White House card because they cannot use any taxpayer funds, which I wholeheartedly agree with. Is that the UFC needs to fund this from top to bottom. They need to fund it all. And they're saying an estimated 60 million, but they're going to make, I think they have a $30 million cap of what it takes, what they normally pay. What it normally costs them to run a show is about 30 million, probably. I would imagine it's less, but I'm just using this as a high-end show. Probably costs them anywhere between 30. The sponsors pay them another 30. They're going to be losing probably about $30 million on one show. Don't feel bad for them. They were like almost a $2 billion profit last year. Don't feel bad. I've got TKO stock, and they paid me out a nice little stipend. So, Londo's 1995. Hope I answered your question there. Let's go ahead and go into degenerate MMA fan. Jon Jones played himself and overplayed his hand. You are 100% correct. He did overplay his hand. He should have fought Tom Aspinall. I agree with you. He should have fought Tom Aspinall. But I will give you a fighter's perspective on this. A fighter's perspective on this is that at the age of where Jon is at, and the stage of where Jon is at in his career, Jon's looking for the fights that motivate him. He's looking for the legacy fights. Alex Bejeda is a legacy fight. Alex, 2-division champion. Alex coming in, knocking out Izzy, and then, and then losing to Izzy, but then coming in winning the 205-pound title and having a lot of success in 2 different weight classes. And ultimately, he's a very big guy. You put him and Jon together face to face, they're probably about the same size. And he looks at Alex and goes, "Look, I can take you down. I can beat you that way and submit you. I'm way better than you on the ground. I'm way better than you in wrestling. On the feet, you're going to give me some problems. But on the feet, Jon's not out of it either. Using the reach and the range. Jon's got like an 86-inch reach or something crazy like that, I believe, is what Big Jon was telling me a long time ago. It's like an 84 or 86-inch reach. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. So Jon did overplay his hand. What happened was the Tom Aspinall negotiations really came back to bite him in the ass. He basically told, I think, the UFC, if you let me fight Stipe, defend my title, I will go ahead and fight Tom Aspinall after that. And it didn't happen. He went off and retired, and then the White House card got announced that they were going to do a White House, and Jon's all of a sudden back. So I don't feel too bad for Jon, but I understand where Jon's coming from. I'm going to get more into this too, because this all leads into the Zuffa boxing, and what fighters are going to have to start doing is start demanding respect, start commanding what their number needs to be. And I had this take today when I was talking with Angelo on Bad Takes, which will probably drop that show later this afternoon. And I had this take and we'll talk more about it, is that he's ran his course. Jon is towards the end of his career. UFC does not make it a habit to pay these guys beyond their prime. It's not good for business. Now, do I think that Jon deserves $15 million? Absolutely. Do I think guys like Sugar Sean and O'Malley and then Merab, do they deserve more money? Absolutely. There's certain guys that like Merab, trying to do what he did last year, that guy deserves a lot. He did put on 4 great performances, came up short on the last one. The guy is giving it his all. He's doing everything he can on social media to build up his fan base, create his brand, build his brand big, which all ultimately leads back to the UFC doing better numbers. Merab is crushed it. I can't say enough positive things about Merab. Guys like him need to get paid out. Degenerate MMA gambler again, or MMA fan. I got another one from you. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Thank you again for the $10 super chat. Did you see Connor's comments about pay-per-views? He said he never the UFC 200 or UFC 300 guy. He's always 201, 202. Yes, I did see this. That way the UFC gets cash in on twice. He is 100% correct, and that's a great business model by the UFC. Smart. UFC 200, and I just talked about this with the White House card and the Sphere. No matter what, people are going to watch the Sphere fight. No matter what, people are going to watch the White House card. No matter what, people watched the Strikeforce Playboy Mansion fights because it was at the Playboy Mansion, because it's going to be at the White House, because it was at the Sphere. This, no matter what, UFC 200, UFC 300, UFC 100, people watched it because it was a huge deal. Huge deal. Now, it does, the 200, the 100, 200, 300, it didn't matter who you had on the card. But the Sphere fight, really didn't matter. You started picking venues. That got people to tune in. The White House card. Who's going to be there? Who's in the crowd? How does it look on TV? All of those, where do the fighters walk from? Those are all things that keep fans' interest peaked. So Does it matter who's on that card? I don't think it matters who. Like, I know it kind of does a little bit, but not really. I mean, Ilya is a star. Justin Gaethje is a star. So they got a good main event. And to be honest, we got the better, and that's no dig at Jon Jones, but we got the better heavyweight fight. We got Alex versus Gon. Two guys that are going to stand. Neither one will probably wrestle. We're going to end up with a stand-up fight. So I like this. I think we got the better heavyweight fight. We got a really good main event. It's going to probably be a slobber knocker. Someone's going to get knocked out. I think Gaethje just came out yesterday. He's like, this fight ain't going the distance. One of us getting slapped. Alex and Jon Jones Jon, I think, would have just taken him down, controlled him, dominated him. Big elbows, big shots from the top, worked to a submission. Maybe 1 round, maybe 2 rounds. And I think the fight would have been done. This fight, someone can get knocked out in the first round, someone get knocked out in the second. We don't know. But Alex and Gon, we know we're going to get stand up. I think it's a great fight. It's a better fight. The only thing that I feel like, and I said this the other day, the only fight that could have made this card better, the White House card, was if they would have done Sean O'Malley and Corey Sandhagen. And this is no disrespect to Sahabi. None whatsoever. But everybody, including myself, wants to see the Sean O'Malley, Corey Sandhagen fight. That's the fight that we want to see. So if you would have added that fight, I think people would have cared less about what Jon is saying right now. Like, yeah, we got Corey and we got Sean, and we've got Alex fighting another stand-up guy and Gon, and then we've got, Ilya and Gaethje. And if they could have been able to, which they never, I think they were ever going to be able to get it done, is there's no way they were ever going to have Islam on that card. Habib came out publicly and said he prefers you not fight on that card. And I can tell you, and if you guys watched my interview with Islam, he'll tell you. It's like, no, if Habib tells me to quit tomorrow fighting, I'll quit tomorrow fighting. That lets you know when Habib said, like, no, I don't want him to fight on the White House card. He was not going to fight on the White House card. You have to have those relationships to understand these guys. I've got a couple still in the bag there, and obviously Habib and Islam and Umar and Usman and Javier and all those, I've been friends with them and long time friends with them, training partners, everything. So when they said that, I understood it. I understood right away. Thanks for the $10 super chat, degenerate MMA fan. Appreciate you, buddy. But yeah, Lando again. Let's go ahead and ask. Like I said, this segment tonight, this live show right now is about you guys asking questions. So if you guys can get a jump in and try and throw some questions in there, and I'll try to get to them as best I can. Lando's 1995. Thanks for the $7 super chat. The direction of the sport is concerning. I think it is very concerning for a lot of people. Dana once again stated at the press conference he's not happy with Arman. Why not capitalize on Arman? If you guys haven't learned by now that Dana has a tendency to hold grudges. And if he doesn't like something that you do, he'll hold it against you. And this is the classic example of him doing it. He's done it before in the past with a lot of other fighters. And once he's got you back under his control, he has a tendency, as long as you're putting fans in the seat and you're doing a good job of building up your fights and all these things, and you being a company man, he'll go ahead and do the best he can to take care of you. But he always keeps it in the back of his mind. It's always there for him to say, like, oh, well, like, this guy was difficult to deal with later on. Or if the person leaves, they didn't want to fight the best. How many times have we heard these things? When I left to Bellator, they said they cut me. They didn't cut me. They offered me a contract all the way up until the day I signed with Bellator. They offered me a contract. They offered me a lowball contract. I was like, yeah, I'm good. I got guaranteed money over in Bellator. I got a signing bonus, a huge signing bonus. My signing bonus was more than the two fights together in the UFC. And I was still ranked in the top 10 over there. But my fight was two fights in the UFC was my signing bonus for Bellator. And they were like, how would I not stay? Look, Jon's got some good points in here. He's done a lot for the UFC. I think ultimately it came down to the UFC remembers what he did when it came to negotiations with the Tom Aspinall fight. But let's go ahead and listen to what Errol has to say. There were some other things like that Errol had some comments on. I want to go ahead and take a listen on this as well. So make sure you guys can hear this, and I'll add this here. Hit play.
Jon Jones has every reason to be upset. In my opinion, Jon Jones is worth $30 million. If Conor Benn, with all due respect, is getting 15 to fight Regis Prograis in a catchweight fight, Jon Jones is worth 30, and Conor McGregor is worth 75. If that's the market value now, if that's the ceiling, then them dudes are worth a hell of a lot now, and because of everything they did over the past 10 years or so.
And Ariel is 100% correct. And this is where the problem lies, is that Conor Benn, I mean, this is no dig at Conor Benn, obviously. He is a fantastic boxer, but he is not the GOAT of boxing. Whereas Dana has said repeatedly that Jon Jones is the GOAT of the UFC, the GOAT of MMA. That argument can be made however you want to make it. But Jon has been one of the best, if not the best fighter in the world since he was 23, 24 years old. So why is he not making $15 million a fight? And the argument, I think, for a lot of, like Angelo made this argument, well, that's different money. It's coming from Turki Al-Sheikh, and the money's it's from him, and ultimately it's all TKO boxing. You just pulled off a profit, I think, of $1.8 billion or something a year this last year. You just pay, like I have TKO stock. They just paid me. You got paid out on that. Like that because you guys had such a great profit. Paying out dividends. So it's gonna lead to a head. Is the fighters, they're gonna have to figure it out, man. The fighters will do anything to stay inside the UFC, which is their downfall. The UFC knows you don't want to leave. I said this years ago. I used to help. I pretty much found, and you can look it up if you want. Anthony Rumble Johnson, I found hitting mitts in the back of a gym in Shoot Box in LA. Made a couple phone calls, got him on the Ultimate Fighter or got him into talking with Joe Silva about him being on the Ultimate Fighter tryouts. This was after the Gabe Rudiger situation where Gabe didn't make weight, all this other stuff. So they said, AJ's too big. We can't have him. If he has to fight every other week and he can't make weight, then it looks bad on the show. We went through this. We're not doing it again. So they said, keep him ready, though. We want to give him a try. He had the look. They're like, no way he makes 170. He got called on like 10 days notice to fight Rich Clemente. He drops Rich Clemente in the first round, has a fight, and starts to get tired. He gets obviously slows down in the second third. He loses the next 2 rounds, loses the fight. Loses the fight. Comes out after that when they give him a chance, an opportunity to have a full camp. When they give him an opportunity and a chance to have a full camp, he goes out there and look at his resume. He starches people. Just Tommy Spears and Luigi Fioravante and Yoshida, all these guys, he's just putting it on them. Head kick knockouts. Like, he's doing it all. Then he couldn't make weight a couple times. UFC lets him go. He goes off to the World Series of Fighting, which is now the PFL. And in that process, I'm talking with him and kind of help. I'm not managing him, but I'm an advisor. Very much how like Eddie Hearn apparently is an advisor now to Tom Aspinall. And he's like, hey, they're letting me go. Because he didn't make weight for the Vitor Belfort fight and all that stuff. So then we're like, hey, we can go. We went somewhere else. We got paid the same money, a little bit more actually, to fight in the World Series of Fighting. After the World Series of Fighting, and we told him we don't want to fight for the title. We knew we were going back to the UFC. We knew it. And so in that process, we took some fights, got some wins in the heavyweight division, and then we went back to the UFC after the contract was done, and they gave him, we were only gone for, I don't know, 2 years, maybe not even that, year and a half. 2 years. I can't remember exactly, but it was like probably closer to 2 years. Weren't gone that long. He cashed out. His pay before, in terms of what his pay was when we brought him back, was huge. Huge. So for me, these fighters that are making this kind of money, they need to understand that, look, it's okay. The UFC will not hold it against you if you decide you want to leave. They may be like, that sucks. Like you heard it with Shane Burgos. Let me go ahead and bring you back over here. You heard it with Shane Burgos. And the UFC's like, yeah, that was a guy we should have kept. A guy we should have kept. And they didn't. And then, then he had some, I think he had a loss over there in the PFL. Can't remember. But he wasn't having great performances against some of their talent. He hasn't been back. I don't know what he's doing now. But you can build up yourself in another organization and come back and request more money. To think that you can't bank on yourself to get some wins and do it in another organization is foolish. Guys like Eddie Alvarez have done it right. Guys like Eddie Alvarez, who was part of Bodog, then Elite XC, then Bellator, and everywhere he went, UFC, and then to One, that guy was cashing out everywhere he went. It was insane. He cashed out big time. I mean, he's out there making it work. So I look at it. I look at Jon, and Jon needs to, and Jon has a good argument. Ariel Helwani has a really good argument as well. Is that these fighters are starting to see that guys like Jon Jones can't even request $15 million. Yet you got a guy in Conor Benn fighting Regis Prograis, who no one's ever even really heard of. There's a couple guys that have heard of him. I've seen him fight one time. And Conor Benn, I've seen fight one time. But these fighters need to start figuring out how they can start getting, if they are not willing to pay you guys who helped build this company, Jon Jones's, Sean O'Malley's, Islam, if they're not willing to pay them 10, 15, 18 million, the GOAT of the sport is what Dana has said. If he's not willing to pay him $15 million to fight on the biggest card probably in UFC history at the White House, man, he ain't never going to be ready to pay any of you guys below him. Never. Here's my insight on this. My insight is this. Chuck Liddell was the champ, on paper making $250,000 a fight. So when fighters came back and said, hey, my contract's up, I want to negotiate, they would show the fighters, here's Chuck Liddell's contract for $250,000. Why are we paying you more than $250,000 a fight? We all knew Chuck wasn't making $250,000 a fight. That's what they had in his contract. But there's a bunch of other little things that were slid in there where he was making well over $250,000 a fight. Making into the millions. That was Chuck Liddell. They could do that. They could make other fighters feel like, man, if Chuck's not getting it, how am I ever going to get it? And they're doing it again. If Jon Jones isn't getting $15 million, you ain't getting $15 million. Because I've said that Jon Jones is the greatest to ever do it. If Jon Jones ain't getting $15 million, you're not getting $15 million. Don't even ask for a number near that, because you haven't done anything of the sort of what Jon Jones has done. I was always I was on the side of the fighter. I'm always on the side of the fighter. But the fighter also has to be on its own side. They have to be able to stick up for themselves. But the UFC has allowed or have put themselves in this position where the fighters do not want to leave. Someone says right here, Lazy Bed MMA. Very good comment. Stockholm Syndrome, DJ. They're sympathizing with their jailers. Lazy Bed MMA. Great comment. This is absolutely correct. And to throw it out there, like, and I know I'm talking about them going to other promotions, fighters going to other promotions. MVP just threw its name in the hat. They've got a lot of money. They've got connections and the relationship with Netflix. So do not be surprised. The UFC will not let Jon Jones go. But do not be surprised if MVP, if Jon was ever be let go, the MVP will be the first people to snatch him up. They've got Francis Ngannou now. Let's see if that fight happen. But they'll never let him go. There should be, when I talk about, like, and I've always been like, hey, you signed a contract, this and that, like, you don't have to let him go. But if you're telling people that I'm retired, no, I want to fight. You need to pay me. They have to fight him. Now, I don't know how many fights he has left on his contract. I don't know what he has. But there's guys that have built a good enough name for themselves inside the UFC. Sean O'Malley being one of them. I could see Sean for sure jumping ship. Just leave on good terms. Just leave like, hey man, these guys are willing to pay me more. I'm going to test the free agency and see what happens. And I think MVP, you have him. There's also some beef between him and that kid that got slapped, Dean the Great. Like there's fights out there for him that Netflix would buy into. You know, I mean, do you eventually end up getting like a Ryan Garcia, you know, who decides like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do some of these gimmick fights. Yeah, I mean, there's, I don't know. Look, I came on here basically to kind of get your guys' feedback on what your guys' thought process was on this. You know what I mean? So it's, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and see. Let's go ahead and add this to I'm going to put this back up because I want to play it again. Not play it again, but play some more of it.
Like Conor Ben, Jon Jones ain't the same as far as drawing power. I'm sorry. And as far as resumes. So what they've done now is that's the new number. Because all these fighters, the top ones are saying, wait a second. And they're saying, yeah, you can have that number too. But the problem is they all know that they're way bigger stars. So I think they took these guys for fools or something like that. Because I can guarantee you they're going to come with that number to Conor McGregor and he's going to be like, what? Are you kidding? I could almost tell, I'm not even in the meeting and I could tell you this is going to happen. I think Conor Ben himself would agree with me. Would he not? Just in terms of what they've done and who they are and their track record. And
I mean, he's right. Like, if they take the $15 million to Conor McGregor, woo, Conor be like, wait, you paid this guy, Regis Prograis, or not? You paid Conor Ben to fight Regis Prograis, $15 million, and you're getting all these people, and they go, oh, but it's Turki Al-Sheikh's money. It's not TKO money. No, look, they're all intertwined. We've seen this. They're all intertwined. But even if it was, look, even outside of that, it's not as if you weren't it's not as if you weren't extremely profitable over the years. Conor McGregor has made them way more money than they have ever paid him. He has made them way more money. It's not even close. I would say Jon has probably made them way more money than they've ever paid him. So when you're bringing in someone like Conor Ben, and I enjoy watching Conor Ben fight, he's a fucking savage. He's a true fighter. Got that dog in him, like just comes forward and just super aggressive, fast, just nasty. I love watching him box. Love it. He excited me when I watched. I only seen one of his fights, but he excited me. Like I got excited watching him box. And that's very tough these days, watching dudes box. Sometimes I'd rather watch fucking paint dry on the wall. But man, watching Conor Ben fight is fun. He's a damn good fighter. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like if in this situation, I don't know how to I don't know how the UFC, I don't know how the fighters work around this. Now look, there's another thing to talk about on this. Is that hold on, let me take this look. Fighters have to stick up for themselves. You know what I mean? Fighters have to make it they have to make it about themselves. But they also need to figure out how, if they want to stick together. You know, it's the fighters have to figure out when their contract is due, what their number is. And I can't say that they're not all the same. That's the problem that we lie in, like, right? They're not all fighters are equal. Not all fighters bring in the same amount of money. You know what I mean? Like, they have to figure it out, though. I'm not saying they need to create a union, but you need to have a handful of top fighters that say, like, look, man, this is my title run right now, or I'm the number 2, number 3, number 1 guy in the division. This is the peak of my career. I need to sit out. And I'm taking a hit for the potential of making a million more, $1 million or $2 million or $4 million, whatever it is. I know what I'm worth. And negotiate from there. But whatever it is, it's going to be better than what you have now. I just don't know if the fighters can do it. I use this as an example every single time. And I'll use somebody put out a message the other day. But my example is that when I was fighting Clay Guida, I had the sprawl shorts on. I had the sprawl shirt. They paid me $15,000 or $18,000, $15,000 just to wear the shorts. And I was fighting Clay Guida. Clay Guida goes to them and goes, "Hey, just give me clothes and make my banner for me." Because that's when banners were a thing, where you hung the banner over the back. He did it for free. Just give me some clothes. And remember when the whole Jon Jones to fight somebody, it was like, and then Derek Lewis goes, no, if you're going to pay him this much money, shit, pay me just $1 million. That's the problem. You always have fighters that will do it for less. Ali Quinta came out, released some. I had Al on the show, and he released some DMs, basically with talking about Justin Gaethje, about how, like, hey, he tried to negotiate more money when him and Justin were supposed to fight, didn't do it. Like, and Justin's like, "Nah, man, I'm good. I have my number. I'm good to go." And I was like, "Bro, we can make more money. They're in a pickle right now. We can do it." He's like, "Nah, man, I'm good." But if you both go to him, if you both go to the UFC and say, like, "Hey, can we get a little extra? Like, we're coming through for you in a clinch." I think the UFC, like, you come to them one-on-one, you say, I think there's some work to be done there. You can get it done. You go public with it, though, and do shit like that, that's where they're like, yeah, screw you. They're not going to be bullied into things like how they bully other people into doing things. They're not going to be bullied into it. They're the bullies in this situation. Here's another one of Ariel's clips that talking about basically like the Conor Benn situation. Says yesterday Dana White defended Conor Benn's pay and said it's never a bad thing when guys make more money. You should be happy about it. I want to remind people, probably about 6 months ago, Dana came out publicly and said it's fucking always the worst when fighters make more money. It ruins everything. He said that. Conor fought, I think Conor fought Mayweather, made all this money, and just other guys that made money. It's like, it just ruins things. He's now saying the opposite thing. So let's take a look at this.
But here's what he had to say regarding fighter pay, and it's just dripping with just conflicting statements, with hypocrisy, and no one ever pushes back at these things. It's so frustrating to watch. Here's what he had to say.
Well, listen, everybody. Why is it a bad thing when guys make more money? You know what I mean? It's never a bad thing when guys make more money. It's always a good thing when there's more money in the sport. And since 2001, fighter pay has gone like this nonstop. Obviously, we just got a great television rights deal. I promise you that fighter pay is going to be just fine over the next 7 years.
Do you remember what he said when Francis Ngannou signed that massive deal to leave? He's like, he didn't want big fights. He didn't want to be here. He wasn't happy for him for getting more money. Mm-hmm. Francis Ngannou made $600,000 to fight Cyril Gane in his last UFC title fight. $600,000. That's what he made. When he left the UFC, was Dana saying, like, this is good for the business? Why aren't you happy for him? Same thing he's saying to Eddie Hearn. If you're really his friend, why aren't you happy for Conor Benn? Was Dana White happy for Francis Ngannou for going out and getting more money? Of course not. Is Dana White going to be happy when the fighters are like, wait a second, when Conor McGregor says, wait a second, where Jon Jones says, wait a second, you're paying Conor Benn $15 million? Pay me 30. Pay me 45, 75. No, of course not. The fighters are sitting around being like, oh, this is great. No, it's not great, especially when this other entity that you have, the fighters are apparently getting way more. Jaya Pataya probably made more than Charles Oliveira and Max Holloway to fight in front of 3 people at the Apex on a Sunday night.
Yeah, that's where you're running into these problems. These boxers that are coming in are going to be making more money. Not all of them, but you have Charles Oliveira. You've got Charles Oliveira. You've got guys like Max Holloway, guys that have just laid it on the line every single time. You want those guys. Look, I was in an era of didn't make shit. I was one of those guys that, like, the money started to get better towards the end of my career. I mean, I got so many stories for you guys, man, with Randy Couture talking about, like, to fight Pedro Hizzo, he made like $25,000. I know that was a long time ago. But then it didn't get much better between that time and the time that, like, when I was in Strike Force and I was in the UFC again. Like, it wasn't, it was good. It was definitely good. Had I not been smart with my money, I mean, I'd have to have a real 9-to-5 right now. And I think a lot of these fighters are going to end up in this situation. They're not going to know what to do. When you're done with sports, it's a lonely world out there afterwards, because everyone puts you on a pedestal, but then you're not there. It's gone. You need to reinvent yourself into doing something that you have not done for however long you were in the sport. I fought for 22 years. From the beginning of the time I fought, it's 22 years, a little over 20, almost 24, 23 years. In that time frame, think about this. In that time frame, cell phones became like in your pocket, walk around. When I first started fighting, cell phones were like, it was $9 a minute. Technology from a iMac, whatever it was, computer desktop, to laptops now. To now laptops in your pocket. Like, you're carrying around. Remember when your teacher told you never carry around a calculator in your pocket? You know what I mean? It's wild. These guys are coming in off of Dana White Contender Series, making like 10 and 10, 12 and 12, 15 and 15, whatever it is. That's fine. That's an entrance contract. But you need to treat it like as if you're in the UFC, or not in the UFC, but in the NFL. In the NFL, you get in on your rookie contract after your first 3 years. If you're still there, you deserve to get paid. If I get through my rookie contract, I deserve to get paid. Because in fighting, it's becoming more relevant like the NFL. Your prime days are 25, 26 to 31, 32. After that, it is downhill. And this guy right here, master of the universe. I'm going to punch you in the face when I see you. Josh was fighting while we were all playing Super Mario on the Super Nintendo. What a little jerk. But you are 100% correct. You are. I mean, like, it really wasn't Super Mario. It was probably like, that was like more like my era was Super Mario, like back then. Yeah. You're almost 50, man. So, but yeah, that's funny. Smart ass. But, you know, look, there's more. There's also more to be had here. You know, there's more to be had here. You've got, let me see here. You've got Sean O'Malley came out today and said some stuff as well. So let's take a look at Sean. Let's take a look at Sean. Let me get him up here on the screen. But yeah, man. It's these guys, they're gonna have to wait until their contracts are up. UFC's not touching anyone's contract. They don't give a shit if they made 1.1 billion a year. They don't care. They don't care. You know what I mean? All right, let's go ahead and play this. Put this up here. This is Sean O'Malley in his talk.
The whole fighter pay thing, it's like everyone wants to make more money when they do whatever they're doing. You know, I have a good relationship with the UFC, and I'm happy. I'm honored that they, you know, asked me to be on the White House card. It's going to be huge for me. It's going to go out there. Yeah, I'm going to make some money, whatever. But I'm going to go out there and build the Sugar brand. I want to go out there, put on a beautiful performance, knock people out, have people remember me. And, you know, hopefully that flows into making more money outside the UFC and different kinds of brands deals or doing well, you know, continues to grow. And, you know, you don't want to make enemies with the UFC. I don't understand how these, I don't get what people are doing. And I saw the Tom Aspinall signed with the Hearn dude. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't really know if that's a great idea either. You're gonna have someone manage you that the Dana doesn't really like or something. That doesn't seem very smart. But I'm fucking, you know, I'm not that smart. But I just, you know, that's how I see it.
I get it. It's a fascinating time. I saw your initial reaction to the Conor Benn news.
Yeah. So the talk in that is that, so we should not sign with guys the UFC doesn't like. That doesn't make any sense. Now, I do know it's going to be difficult for Tom Aspinall to get deals done. The UFC doesn't bend just because it's going to be Eddie Hearn. They're not going to make some changes now. This is the way they've always been. They don't give a shit if it's Eddie Hearn. They don't give a shit if it's your mama. They don't care. They just want to, they will control the energy in the negotiating table. Joe Silva told me to F off a bunch of times. You can just sit on the bench for 6 months. And my comeback to him was, I'm pretty good with my money, man. I can be a year. Just let you know I'm ready to fight, though, whenever you're ready. And as soon as you tell them you're ready to fight, they have to fight you. Because if they don't, it's just time off your clock. Once you tell them you're ready to fight, once I'm medically cleared from anything and say, hey, look, I'm medically cleared, I'm ready to fight, they need to match you up. If they don't match you up, the time is just taken off the contract. You have to be smart like that. Nate Diaz was smart like that. They'd be like, oh, Nate can't fight. No, Nate's like, no, I'm ready to fight, man. As soon as he says that publicly, or as soon as he lets them know he's ready to fight, and you do it in an email so you have it on file, they've got to match you. John, if he didn't want, I don't know how many fights he has left on his contract. If John wants to fight, he just needs to send him an email, or he needs to make it public like he did today, you know, or yesterday. Like, I'm able to fight. We were talking and negotiating that I was going to fight on the White House card, and I'm ready to go. That puts him in a position to say, hey, my contract's coming up on expiration. They're either going to have to fight him or they're going to have to release him. I do not think they release him. You know? But I also want to say we have a new member. I want to thank you guys so much. Here we go. Lundo's 1995, man. Thanks for becoming a member. Just so you're aware, Lundo's 1995. The members, what we do is every once a month, sometimes twice a month, I will pick a member randomly at random, and they will jump on a show with me, and we'll do, you know, however long it takes. Doesn't matter. And we'll just pop things back and forth. We'll talk about topics that, you know, you want to talk about, But that's an option for becoming a member. Also, too, I do giveaways, through some of our sponsors, and that opens you up to that as well. So if you guys become a member, we offer $4.99 membership available for the Wayne and YouTube channel. So check it out. Always fun. So ultimately, it really is. We're in a position where the fighters need to learn to work together and stick together. I don't know if it's going to happen, but like Ariel said, right now it feels like the UFC realizes that these guys are fools. They won't stick up for themselves. They'll take less money to stay so they can say they're in the UFC. You understand? If you're a fighter, you have to start thinking to yourself, this is how they really view me. Mondo's 1995, man. Thanks for the $3 super chat. It would be an honor to speak with you. I would love it, man. I would love it. We'll get something going. Like I said, I pick them randomly. Actually, my producer picks them randomly, and we do one a month. So, become a member and have that option available to you. Look, I'm going to wrap this thing up, but look, ultimately, the fighters need to learn to stick up for themselves. Jon kind of brought it upon himself, but I get where Jon is coming from. Ariel Helwani's got some good points in this situation. Like I said when I started this show, Ariel has a tendency sometimes to do whatever he can to take a jab at Dana and take a jab at the UFC, and and him and I normally don't agree because he's never been inside the cage. He's never been on the other side of the contract negotiations. And sure, he can be told by a fighter or he can be told by a manager, but in reality, it pretty much is one-sided. And that's no dig at Ariel at all. Okay. But a fighter's perspective and being there at the table with Joe Silva and with, these guys negotiating the contract, seeing kind of how they think, sitting down at the table with my managers multiple times to work through deals, even with Scott Coker, even with Dana White, even with Joe Silva, having these dealings and understanding what the vision was. That's the other thing. What is your vision of my career? With Jon, his vision is the career's almost done. So there really is no vision. The vision is to get as much out of him as we possibly can for those last little clicks and those last little subscribers for Paramount Plus. The White House card, to wrap this all up, the White House card is going to sell no matter what, and they know that. Just like the Sphere card sold. People are going to pay money, and they're going to sit down and watch that fight no matter what because it's the White House card, because it's the Sphere. It doesn't matter if you add Jon. Doesn't matter if you add Connor. Connor brought up a good point. That doesn't matter. I'm always the guy after UFC 100, 200, 300. I fight on 201 or 304 or 301. I fight on that card because UFC 200 and 300 and 100, they're all going to sell. They're all the biggest fights. But now they double up. Everyone's going to watch 100, 200, but guess what? One fight or two fights later, they're going to watch Conor McGregor fight. They're going to watch Jon Jones fight. The UFC has a good handle on how to market themselves and how to promote themselves, how to get the most money for themselves. Don't throw all your eggs in one basket. When people were talking, remember, 6 title fights on the White House card. Absolutely not. First off, 3 title fights on one card. The first 2 times they did it was fucking miserable. It was horrible. It doesn't make for good TV. If all 3 fights go the distance, you got 75 minutes of shit. And people are just dropping off, getting mad, yelling and screaming at their TV. What fight is something the UFC and Jon can agree on at this point? I cannot think of anything. It would just be Alex. It would just be Alex Pereira. That's it. Jon doesn't want to fight anybody else unless they have a big name. Alex is the only guy. If Alex loses, I can still see them put that fight on. I don't think you lose anything if Alex loses to Ciryl Gane. You still get a good fight with Jon and Alex. But Alex has dreams of becoming the champion at heavyweight. Jon Jones does not have dreams, I think, doesn't give a shit anymore about being a champion or another belt on his wall. I've got my Strikeforce titles in the other room. They just sit on the shelf. John, every fighter I've ever met, they're like, there's a glass case, just sits there. You walk past it every single day. Mike Tyson talked about it all the time. He's did an interview where he just flipped the belts over. He's like, this is just garbage. It's shit. Hasn't paid attention to it since he's had them. Since he won them, that was the last time he ever looked at them. You know what I mean? So the fights for Jon, for me, it's pretty simple. There's the Alex Pereira fight, and that's it. There's the Tom Aspinall fight because that's a title shot. But like I say, he doesn't care about the title. He cares about legacy fights. Tom doesn't have that legacy that he's interested in fighting. And I can understand that because I've come towards the end of my career, I only wanted to fight the best guy. I only wanted to fight guys that really brought the best out of me, I should say. Thank you for the $10 super chat, Ramzan Rasho. Yeah, it's you need motivation at that age and that stage of your career where Jon, he needs it, it seems like. Think about this. If you were the guy that you beat all the legends, Shogun Rua, Machida, you've beaten all of these guys that just were considered to be legends in the sport. You beat them all. You get to the end of your career and you're like, all right, what else is there left to do? You know what I mean? Like, it's what else is next? I beat another guy. I beat Tom Aspinall. Okay. You hear the guys from Dagestan. You hear them talk about it all the time. Islam, I don't think has more than 2 fights left in him. I think he'll fight 2 more times. He'll defend the title, and then he'll defend probably against Ilya if Ilya gets the win over Gaethje. I think it ends up being Ilya Taporia and Islam Makhachev. Probably by the end of 2026, you'll see that fight. And I think that might be Islam's probably last fight. He'll defend this title next coming up. And then it'll be probably Ilya if Ilya gets a win, which seems to be likely. In a straight up stand up fight. So yeah, I mean, there is so many things these fighters need to do. They need to start shopping the market. PFL will pay. I think MVP will pay. There's people that will pay. I think Ryzen, if you're a smaller fighter, like they paid Patchy Mix, he went over there, came up short again over there on that thing. But look, there's fighters over there that they will pay. If you're from 125 to 155, I think you start thinking about heading towards Ryzen. Thanks for the $7 super chat, Londo's 1995. One final point. Do you think Jon was possibly offered interim against Alex and didn't like the idea of fighting Tom next? Rather, he wanted one fight. Okay. No, I think he's got a contract. He probably has 2 or 3 fights left on his contract. Doesn't matter. He's not negotiating for a 1-fight deal. I think he was offered the interim title, and that probably interests him. And let me remind you, he was the champion. And they tried to get him to fight Tom Aspinall then. He didn't do it. The UFC saw the writing on the wall. We're going to give you the interim title shot against Alex. But once you win that fight, you need to fight Tom Aspinall. And he's going to give them the runaround again. He only wanted the Alex fight the first time. That's why when they offered it to him this time, he only wanted the Alex fight, but they wanted the Tom Aspinall fight. They would have given him the Alex fight had he beat Tom Aspinall first. They would have said, okay, Alex, go. You're next. They were willing to pay him $30 million or whatever the number was to fight Tom Aspinall. This is just giving him what he wanted, but for way less money. And they were like, if we're going to give you what you originally wanted, we're not going to pay you 30. We're going to pay you less. It's going to be less than 15 million. Jon he only wants the Alex fight. He would never have taken, I think he would just walk away. After he beats Alex, if he was to beat Alex, he would have just walked away. There's no reason for me to fight. He wants to fight the biggest name because it's another notch on his belt. You know, I'm gonna throw somebody some shade here right now. Thanks for the super chat there. That's 2 promotions that Scott Coker has failed at. I wouldn't say it was failed. They sold for millions of dollars. Not failed. And think about all the stars that have come from both those promotions. Look, the UFC has just signed Yaroslav Amosov. They have MVP. They got Patricio. They got Aaron Pico. Don't be surprised. The ones that come from the PFL to the UFC, Patchy Mix is the only one that has come. And the sample size is not big enough yet on Aaron Pico. I think I think he's got a bright future. We'll see how he handles it though. Look, it's a fight game, man. Anything can happen. But ultimately, think about all the guys that left, or all the guys that came from Strikeforce, man. The whole heavyweight division in the UFC is all because they came from Strikeforce. UFC hasn't built a heavyweight. Tom Aspinall is the first heavyweight they've built. You know what I mean? Cain Velasquez came from Strikeforce. His first fight was in Strikeforce. My point is, Coker can do it again, but he needs to find, obviously there needs to be some big money backers. If you want to make it happen, you need big money. And there's no doubt that he can make it happen again. There's no doubt. It's a process, though. It takes years. It takes years. The UFC, it took them years, too. They struck oil with the Ultimate Fighter. And they struck oil with Spike. We want to go ahead and take a leap of faith. You know? So, let me see. Green, it says, I couldn't help keep talent. That's all it failed. No, Coker kept all of his talent. Don't forget that. He kept all of his talent. The only talent that left was Jake Shields. Think about this. Talent left the UFC to go back to him. I left and went back to him. Gegard Mousasi, who was ranked number 4 when he left, went to him. Corey Anderson never fought for him before, but loved dealing with him. And he left when they asked for his release from the UFC. They gave it to him, and he went to Coker. Yoel Romero left and went to. Yoel Romero was in Strikeforce. I don't know if you guys remember that. He went back to Coker. Fedor Emelianenko went back to Coker. Man, the list goes on. So many guys went back to Coker. Great to work with. A lot of fighters. Look, the guys that were working with Scott were also amazing. Rich Chow, Mike Kogan. I mean, there's a great group of people that all work there. So the fighters have to figure this out. But I think Ariel Helwani hit it on the head, man. The UFC is playing these guys as if they're fools. Oh, it's Trick Ellis Cheek's money. It's not our money. Well, you guys had record profits this year. Why are we not seeing a jump in our numbers? Now, you won't see those jump in the numbers until you guys are up for contract negotiations. You understand? Like you won't see fighters start being happy until they renegotiate their contract, and they may not be happy then either. But it could be. We'll know more when guys like Sean O'Malley go to renegotiate. Sean said he has 2 more fights left in his contract. We know. Oh, let me see. Who else is here? What will the money be good when Ilya Topuria tries to renegotiate? Will the money be good when Hamzat Chimaev tries to renegotiate? Will the money be good when Piotr Yan or Merab or Volkanovski, I think, just re-signed a long-term deal? You know, when these guys, when Umar Nurmagomedov, when Sean O'Malley, when Corey Sandhagen, when these guys that are legends in this game, what will their money be like? What about DDP? I know he just had a bad performance against Hamzat, but look, he was a good champion, man. It was fun to watch. Beat some good guys. What will the money be like when Sean Strickland goes to renegotiate? There's other guys in here. I mean, like, what about Armand? What's his money going to be like? Charles Oliveira, what's his money? These got Max Holloway, guys that are legends in this sport. What's their money going to be like? Patty Pimblett. What is their money going to be like after they just saw Conor Benn in a boxing promotion signed for $15 million? Is their money going to jump up? That's the question. That's the question. So, all right, guys. Well, hey, I ranted on long enough. I want to thank you guys so much all for the super chats. You guys were amazing. Thank you. And the new members. Thanks for joining, man. Thanks for being a new member. Londos 1995. Thanks for the super chat. Degenerate MMA fan. Thanks for the super chat. And let me scroll on down here some more. Londos 1995. Thanks for becoming a member. I appreciate you, man. And Ramzan Rasho. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate you. You guys are awesome, man. Thank you so much. And we're going to see you guys next time. So until next time, another episode of the Weighing In Podcast. Hit that like and subscribe button. Hit the bell for thumbs up and notifications. So when I drop and do these things throughout the day, you guys can be informed. Talk soon.